Welcome back to the Happy Campers interview series. I'm here today with Andrew Townsend from Kennolyn Camps. And as with all the other directors in this series, I'm interviewing camp directors from day camps and resident camps all over the United States, specifically talking about the growth that kids experience at summer camp and the specific traits and social and emotional skills that each of these camps focus on. So today I want to welcome Andrew.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So Andrew, tell a little bit about your background and how you ended up in camp.
All right. Well, I came to the United States in 1985 for what I thought was a one summer adventure and ended up at Kennolyn Camp and just absolutely fell in love with the idea of camp. We don't have something similar. Well, maybe we do now, but certainly not in the mid-'80s. Didn't have really anything similar in the UK. Although I had been to something remotely connected in that I went by myself. It wasn't a camp, but we went by myself, and I went with other kids, and we didn't know each other to these centers, I guess they were called. So I had an idea, but I fell in love with it. I just loved the institutional living, the all eating together, the sleeping together. And then the kids arrived and I saw this growth that was happening every day with the kids. This is something special. And then, of course, also not a unique story, but I met my wife there that first summer.
The first summer? Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
So
okay.
Brenda and I met there in 1985, working. I actually ran the camp store. I was not a counselor.
Okay.
And she ran the dining room.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And then it just became something that we both fell in love with, and became just a part of our life every summer. And then it became our full-time life, and we've raised our family there. Our kids are now grown, but they've all been raised at camp, and it's been a great journey. So what I thought was a one summer destination became this lifelong journey.
Right. So what else, before you came to work at camp, what were you thinking you were going to do for your career?
So I had started work at 16 in the UK. That's very common. We don't all go on to that last 2 years of high school. And so I thought I was in a big business. I was an export clerk, actually. So I would facilitate all the overseas shipments. And whilst that particular niche wasn't my thing, I thought, well, I'll be in this kind of a world for a long time. And I just decided I just wanted to go somewhere. And the United States was the connection. Was my brother happened to be in Marin County, so north of San Francisco. Right. So it was just, that was it. There was no particular goal, but I just wanted to do something different. And I had a ticket. I came in March and I had a ticket to go home in September. That was my 6 months. And then, living with him was fine. We had a good time, but then I want to do something different. I'm just really seeing one part of the country. So I went and applied for camps and ended up in Santa Cruz, California, and been there ever since.
The rest is history. Yeah. So that was 85. So how many years has this been for you then at camp?
So I think this will be summer 35, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So funny because I started at my camp at 86. So it's one summer after you. You're ahead of me by a year. So just as you were talking, I was just thinking about all the things about international staff, which I think I haven't talked with any of the other directors about that, but one of the really awesome things about a lot of camps is this opportunity to meet people from other countries. So why don't you talk a little bit about that part of camp, the international element?
I think it's so important. I think a lot of people are surprised when there's a whole program that brings people from around the world to work at summer camps. And I think when you look at it from the outside, that there's some questions of, well, why would you do that? Is there a labor shortage? Is it cheaper? But really, it's philosophically, it's exposing these kids to this wide variety of backgrounds and experiences. And we tell the staff very intentionally, you may be the only person from your country that a child ever actually meets and talks to. So think about what you want them to know, right? What you want them to understand about your culture and your history. And because that's a powerful moment. And so, and then we do obvious things like celebrating international nights where they each give a presentation, but it's more about just that sitting down and things like, how you go through a meal, how you get ready for bed, all these little things that are different. And it's very eye-opening sometimes. So it's a huge part of our program, and we travel internationally to meet participants and hire them for the summertime. And so those become our regular returning
Yes.
staff, because it is
Yeah.
so different. It is not
Mhm.
something they can get back home,
Mhm.
you know, and so they're drawn to it, and they put off careers, and they find careers that have summers free, and they'll do a lot to keep coming back, because it's I think it's especially special, if that makes any sense, because it's not something they grew up with. It's not something they can easily access at home.
Right.
So to make this big journey every year to the United States of America and come to California and be a part of that is very special.
Yeah. Well, so to the outside world, you kind of present yourself as this kind of serious British camp guy, but I've seen some photos of what goes on at Kennolyn.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about what you enjoy most about being a camp director, and what are some of the things that you're involved in at Kennolyn?
Yeah. So there's definitely, I think all of us as camp directors, there's a very serious side to our job. We're worried about risk management and food service and housekeeping and all those things that go on behind the scenes. But we do 2 or 3 campfires a week. I absolutely love being at campfire, whether I'm just sitting watching or whether I'm hosting or participating. I think that is a magical moment at camp. And I think every camp has some format of campfire, whether it be indoors, outdoors, whether there be a real fire or not. But that group, because watching the kids and watching the joy and watching even the boredom, even the parts where it's not going well and these kids are sitting there, but they're respectful. And they still at the end, give a round of applause, and there's no heckling. I love that. What a moment, And so campfire, those group things I really love. This is kind of a funny thing, because I'm not American by birth, but I love flag raising and flag lowering. And it's partly the ceremony and seeing the kids understand it. It's partly asking the international staff to participate in some ways. Like, you are here in this country, and we want to recognize it's not jingoistic. It's not, it's not preaching. It's just a fun moment to stand there and go, okay, we're celebrating where we are and who we're with. But I mostly like it for, it's about as formal as camp gets. And I love to see the kids who are in this complete, fun, happy place. And then there's a trigger in them somehow. Okay, we're lining up now. We've got to stand. And I do enjoy watching that, and watching how the counselors very gently make that moment special for just it's a couple of minutes. And then we go back to just kind of being silly and funny. But I like those moments. I like those big group moments where I can see everybody and just say something, like saying silly things in front of the kids, and they go, wow, he's the director. He just made a joke. What's that? And those things are fun.
Yeah. Well, I just love seeing some of the photos that I've seen of you in really great costumes and stuff. So I can see that you have fun out there with your campers, which is great. Okay, so let's talk all about Kennolyn. Kennolyn's been around for a long time, and really a great program where kids come back year after year and everything else. So why don't you talk about where you are, the ages of your campers, the sessions, all that stuff.
So our longest established camp is in Santa Cruz, California. It's the original site, and it is we have an overnight camp on one side of the road and a day camp on the other side of the road, and we really enjoy that, where we can serve both local families and then even out of town and international families. So the overnight camp was the original, established in 1946. Max and Marion Caldwell, my mentors in life, and so they built this camp. And it started with nothing, like most camps. They really had very little. We called Max and Marion Uncle Max and Aunt Marion, and Uncle Max would always tell me he started with a blind horse and a mule, and that was and that was going to be a program and some crafts, and we'll figure it all out, And so that's in Santa Cruz. We run 1 and 2 week sessions, and we have programs for kids from first grade all the way through to seniors in high school if they stay with us the whole time. The day camp runs for 5 years old up to about 12, 13 years old. And they're 2 separate programs. We've learned over the years that a kid who's excited and ready for day camp can be very different to a kid who's excited and ready for overnight camp. And that took us a while to learn, actually. We used to think day camp was just resident camp where kids went home at night, but it's not. It's a very different program. It's higher energy during the day because you don't need to build in much break time because they have that in the evening. And so it's got this, so we learned the rhythm and the beauty of a day camp program. And so they're 2 separate programs, but it's a nice way for the kids who eventually will look forward to overnight camp to have a place they already know and love. So
So they probably feel really comfortable after going to the day camp, at least being in the general, the same environment with some of the same staff,
same
perhaps.
Same staff.
If they go to like an activity like horses, I know horses is really big. Would it be at the same place?
Same place, but different times.
Okay,
different
so
days.
like the day campers will be riding the same horses as the resident campers, just at different times. Okay. Well, I want to get back to, I want you to actually talk to parents a little bit about when you're ready for each of those things, but let's keep talking about Kennolyn. So the sessions are either 1 or 2 weeks. What's your, like, what do most kids attend?
2 weeks is still our core program.
Okay.
As you know, we recently added a program at Huntington Lake in California, and that's all 2 weeks.
Okay.
In Santa Cruz, we do have some 1 week sessions, but 2 weeks is definitely the most popular. And kids stay longer. We have a lot of kids that will do multiple sessions, stay with us for 3 or 4 weeks, but 2 weeks is the core program, really, but both programs.
Okay, so in a 2 week program at Kennolyn, what's kind of the typical, like, what do kids do? What are the activities? Do they sign up? Do they go as a group? How does that all work?
So regardless of how long they're with us, half the days they're with us are going to be what we call regular activity days. Not a very fancy name, but it describes it perfectly. Those are the days that they know they're going to follow a schedule that they've helped put together. So before they even arrive at camp, they'll give us some choices. And we do that. It's very intentional the way we do signups. We know that for some families, there's a specific reason they chose Kennolyn. It might be horseback riding. It might be trapeze. It might be something that really is important to them. And we also, so we want the parents to have a little bit of input. Like, this is something we did this because of a reason. So we do some signups ahead of time. We also know that there's a lot of kids that, you know, signing up at camp can be a little stressful. So for them, they can at least put 2 or 3 things down and think, I know I'm going to get horseback riding and swimming, whatever it might be. But then we also like the idea, we get the kids to camp, they've got a little bit of their schedule fleshed out, and then we have an activity fair, which is actually a really fun thing. It's a little harder for the younger kids, so we manage theirs a little differently and help them through. But for the older kids, the chance to, I just met a new friend and we can go together and sign up for crafts. Or I don't know that counselor, but he looks fun or she looks really interesting. I'm just going to sign up for whatever they're teaching that period. So we do a kind of a mix. So some of it's done ahead of time, some of it's done at camp. And then they keep that schedule for the 2 weeks that they're with us. Okay. And so 3 days each week, they know that's an activity day, and I'm going to go to my 6 activities in order. Okay. And it's the same schedule throughout the 2 weeks.
And so some of those are kind of pre-planned, and then some they're signing up at this activity fair.
Yes.
So it's like a one-time thing?
Yeah,
okay. Right. So it's a one-time activity fair where they're kind of figuring it all out.
Right.
Okay.
And then they can change. I mean, there's a change day the next day. They can, they tried something out. I thought fencing was something totally different to that. Or I didn't see fencing at the activity fair.
And now I want to do it.
Yeah, they got swords and masks. I'm in. Yeah. So they can come to the office and change it. By the end of that first full day, we'd like them to have their complete schedule. Right. We do have numerous opportunities to just try things, days when there's no schedule and they can just try it. But we really like that idea of progression and skill building. It's a great life lesson for kids. They see specific changes. You know, parents might notice subtle changes in their kids and things that are important when you're raising kids. But for the kids, they want to see that they're better at something. Right. I couldn't do that when I came, but I can do it now. Right. And so we like that progression. And our counselors are taught that, you know, you really want to each day kind of move it forward a little bit and let's develop. So we like to see that. But then we throw in these free choice days where they can just do whatever's on the list. And they like that too. So
you said, I think it's like 3 days a week is they're following that more regular schedule. And then are those other days?
So the other days are, I mean, we in Santa Cruz, we go to the beach. Obviously one time we go to the beach boardwalk. There's an amusement park in Santa Cruz. Those are kind of our field trips. Every week we do a night out in the woods. Every kid, and I think that's the one thing that every Kennolyn camper since the opening in 1946 has done. It's always been a part of the program. And it's interesting because it's one of those things that we know a lot of kids are nervous, quite frankly, about it. It's sleeping out in the woods on the ground. But the reality is at the end of the summer, when we look through evaluations, it is by far the most talked about, memorable event of the summertime. And so getting past that and building up to it and then going on your first outpost is this big deal. But I think it because I know it was there in the first summer, and I don't know that we've ever not done it. So
even the 1 week kids get to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, so that everybody gets to do that.
It's every week.
Is it backpacking or just kind of a short walk? The
kids think they've done 25 miles with 40 pounds on their backs, and to hear them tell the story, they've literally hiked the Appalachian Trail. In reality, they could probably throw a stick from their site to their cabin, but it's well laid out. We have those big, beautiful redwood trees in Santa Cruz, and so we you can really feel like you're out there. And some of the counselors are very smart. They take the long way around so that they don't get to the site too early.
So they're like, wait, I think I see one of our horses right over there.
Exactly. Yeah. Why? How can I still hear what's going on at camp?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's really well done, and they really enjoy it. It's a very special part of the time.
So where do kids live, and like what are their group sizes, and where do the counselors like how does that all work?
So I'll tell about both. In Santa Cruz, we live in cabins, about 10 people, which is up to 8 kids and 2 counselors.
Okay.
Younger kids, six campers and 2 counselors. At Huntington Lake, we've actually got a little different where we have bigger cabins. So we'll have 2 groups that can live together. And we like that idea because, you get to know the kids in your group, but then we all know, I think in the overnight camp setting, it's that living structure that just really where you kind of learn so much about what it means to get along.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of putting 2 groups together, they're not together all day, but then they come together in the evening. And so it gives you this wider family that you can kind of get to know. Yeah. So that's an opportunity we have at the Huntington Lake program because of the bigger cabins.
Right.
And then Santa Cruz, it's that 6 to 8 with the 2 counselors in there.
Okay. So they're with that group they obviously stay there overnight. Mm-hmm. They go on their overnight in the woods with that group. Okay.
So basically, if they're not at their individual activities, which are completely individualized, so a counselor may not see their own kids in any of their daily activities. They might, if I'm assigned to teach ropes course and my kids didn't sign up for ropes course, I might not see them.
Okay.
I'll see them at meal times.
Okay.
And then, but if my kids are not in one of those activities, they're with the group, basically.
Okay. So on the beach day.
Beach day, they go as a group.
Okay.
Boardwalk, they go as a cabin group.
Okay.
So we want enough time for the cabin group to really be the special family, but we all know we need time away from our family, right? Whether it be at camp or in life. So that's built into the program at all of our camps, so that there's a little bit of time when you kind of go off and meet other people. We also, philosophically, we really want kids to learn from different adults. Mm-hmm. Every counselor has a different way of coaching, a different way of communicating, a different language maybe. And so English isn't always their first language. So you got to kind of negotiate together, what's the word for this? And it's a very special time. So we want kids, because that's part of life too, right? Your parents aren't going to teach you everything. You're going to have coaches and teachers, and just learning that there's different styles and that you really connect with some people, and other people you still like them, but they're just there to teach. And so it's this really interesting mix, and kids, I think, learn a lot from that. Just like, I really like that style. That was really good for me. Yeah. And I'm sure they don't process it in that way, but I think it really is helpful. So we like to make sure that they interact with as many adults as possible, just to learn that there's so many different ways of learning and doing and enjoying time and different styles.
So when you think about, with the activities, I mean, I've always, I got to tour Kennolyn once. It's a beautiful site. I love the little old fashioned downtown thing, or Main Street, or whatever you want to call it. But I mean, I've always thought of you as being a really excellent horse program. You mentioned trapeze. What are some of the programs that are most popular? The ones that your returning kids, like as they're signing up, they really want to do, like what you're finding are the ones that kids are like most at Kennolyn? Well,
certainly horseback riding still, from day one, I think, has been a big part of our program. Fencing, that kind of came up a minute ago, but that's a very popular program. I think it's probably the one I have the most anecdotal evidence that kids have started at Kennolyn and then gone on to different clubs. And because if you like fencing, you really like fencing. It's that, and we have great instructors, usually international staff, and they really build in the kinesthetic part of it, where the kids are actually moving and doing, but also the thinking. They call it, it's active chess. It's like you're thinking the next move. So fencing's one. Trapeze is very popular.
Awesome.
And so for some kids, it's just a thrill ride. It's just like they just want to swing. But for other kids, they take it very seriously. And the partner we have actually has a circus school in Oakland. And so a lot of our kids will then go and take the bigger classes and the more in-depth classes throughout the year.
Okay.
So trapeze is a big one. But the ropes course is also huge. We got our first ropes course in 1993. It's a funny story. The first time we ever did anything like that, we had a counselor and he came to our open house. He was going to work that summer and he said, "Do you do belaying here?" And I went, "No, never heard of it." Belaying, rappelling, you don't do any of that? And I'm like, "No." He said, "Can I show you?" So he rappelled down our tennis court wall, tied off to a lamppost, which I'm sure we wouldn't let him do now. So we're like, okay, that looks good. Can you build a wall? So we built a rappelling wall. That was it. That's all it was. The kids had to walk up one side and they rappelled down. That was the entire program. And that was probably 1990. So in 28 years, we've gone from that to, I don't know, close to 40 different elements on 3 different ropes courses with low elements. And it's amazing how things expand. Once you realize what it can bring to the kids.
Yeah, that sounds like it. So you have such a great mix of things too, for pretty much something for everyone. It sounds like, because if they want to do, now with the horses, do they get to help like take care of them as well? Like
it depends on. We offer that as a separate class because there isn't much time. Certainly for the beginners and intermediates, it's hard to have enough time to teach them all of that. So they'll learn the basics obviously before we put them on to ride. But mostly the beginners and intermediates, if they want to do learn about taking care of the horse, they sign up for a special class called Horse Care.
Okay.
The more advanced kids, some of whom do riding exclusively with us. That's their whole week or 2 weeks is riding. They will do everything. They will, and sometimes we'll even give them a choice. Do you want to go back and be a part of with the rest of camp? They're going swimming, or do you want to stay and clean the stalls? Can we clean the stalls? Really? That would be great. So these are the kids that just love horses.
Right.
So they'll do everything. With the counselors, they'll groom and they'll take care of the horses. They'll feed if they get the chance. And we try and teach them very basic, healthcare too. Just like, hey, it's very simple. How do you wrap? And so they get a lot more depending on how interested they are. But yeah, and that's actually, I think, a common request from parents. It's like, please don't teach my kid that riding just is somebody puts them on a horse with a saddle already on it, because we know there's so much more. So before my kid comes home and says, "Buy me a horse," teach them that that's a lot of work and a lot of responsibility. So we do take that seriously, that we have to make sure that the kids recognize what's involved in all of those things before it shows up in the middle of the ring with a saddle on
yes, all the behind the scenes stuff. So you mentioned, some kids, it sounds like, so everyone can horseback ride, but some kids can do it more as like a specialty.
Yeah, exactly. We have a specialty each session. Riding's every session. But then other sessions we have an adventure specialty for those kids that want to get out in the backcountry more. We have a culinary arts specialty. So, and we built those about 10. Actually, it's funny. They go back all the way to the 70s originally, and then we stopped doing it. But we reintroduced it about 10 years ago because we noticed that kids, and they kind of were collecting experiences. They were like, well, I did crafts last year, so why would I do it again? And we saw that there was new things to learn, but they didn't. And so we got to a point where there was some kids that were like, I've kind of done all your activities. And so we wanted to give them a chance to really get in depth. And horses made total sense because they're right there. Surfing was another one that lent itself to that because it doesn't really lend itself to an hour class when we got to get to the ocean. So there were some things that were built for it. And then over years, just based on demand and requests, we've added different specialties. And they're not recommended for first-time campers.
That's what I was going to ask next. So first they should come and get like the whole experience.
Because whilst they love the specialty, they do miss out on other things. And when you haven't experienced anything before, try the basic program, which is very extensive, and then add those things as your kids get a little older and they're looking for a little bit more in-depth and a little bit more specialization. So I think it becomes kind of developmentally appropriate at a certain age to kind of focus in on things and get really into it and want to improve And so that gives them that chance.
Is there an age thing difference for the specialties, or is it the same as your regular camp?
So the each specialty has its own younger limit.
Okay.
Just because surfing, for example, it's just not very practical to take the third graders down there. So they each have an age limit. Usually in the 5th to 7th grade is when they start. Right. We feel like then that gives the kids a couple of years. You know, maybe they come 2nd, 3rd, some 4th, somewhere in there. They do a couple of summers, and then they're ready for, like, I want to do something a little bit more. So it works kind of as a progression.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so your new Huntington Lake program, what age group is that for? You mentioned that one's 2 weeks only.
Right.
What's going to be some of the different activities and things there, and what age group is that?
Right, so that's going to be 5th through 11th grades, which is really exciting for us because in Santa Cruz, once you hit 10th grade, you really can only do the leadership program. And the kids love it. It sells out. The kids absolutely love that program. It's one of our proudest moments is when we see these kids graduate from that to become counselors. So it's a great program, but we all know there are kids that that's just not their thing. It doesn't mean they're not going to be great leaders. It doesn't mean they're not great leaders now, but leadership in a camp setting is not what they're looking for. They just want to be a kid, and they just want to go have fun. So to be able to add those, you know, for 11th and 12th, 10th and 11th graders, at Huntington Lake can now just come as campers. And we've gotten a lot of interest in that. Like, finally, there's something for my older kid that just does leadership all year long. They're leaders at school, they're leaders at, you know, at church or synagogue, whatever it might be. But now they just want to take 2 weeks and be at Kennolyn. So that's great for us. So starts a little older just because of the lake-based activities. We think younger kids are a little bit for us better served at the Santa Cruz program.
Sure.
And then in terms of activities, we're going to do everything we can think of to do on water because that's so new for us.
Right.
Oh, finally, we got this big body of water. It's not a pool. So we're going to have a skiing program, wakeboarding, stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, canoeing.
Great.
We're going to have a pontoon boat. It's just going to be a very full-service lakefront program, and we're really excited about that. And that is new for us, but we're getting so much support. We're getting so much education, and we've got these amazing families that are so excited to go from the Kennolyn that they've known all these years to this new exciting location. So it's just been a great kind of boost for our entire family, not just in the office, but our entire kind of worldwide family to get the interest of this new thing that we get to do.
And I imagine some of your staff are excited to maybe go to the new place because it's still Kennolyn, but in this new location. Exactly. So that'll be great. So how many kids at the at your Kennolyn site? Talk about how many kids are in the day camp and the resident camp, and how many will be at Huntington?
So day camp is about 140 to 150 a day. Our overnight camp in Santa Cruz, anywhere from 200 to 240. We try and keep the 1 weeks a little smaller, just so that the kids can get through everything in a week. It's a lot of kids to cram in. So we're a little small on the 1 weeks. And then at Huntington Lake, we're going to start out in the 65 to 75 camper number. And we'll grow from there. But we like that idea too, because as you know, there's a certain group of kids that get lost a little bit in those big groups. And there's even with great counselors and great attention to detail, there's just some kids that look around and that's just too many faces for me to see. And so the idea of building a slightly smaller program with a lot of getting to know you is really exciting for us too. So philosophically, not just location and activities will be different, but we're going to come at it from a little different angle just to try and have something that's special for a different group of kids.
Okay, let's talk for a few minutes about just what you feel like are the main things that kids get out of coming to Kennolyn. So how do they grow and change? How are you training your staff to just really intentionally create these just changes in kids, social and emotional growth, character traits? What are some of the things you focus on most and hear from your longtime campers, what they gain from the experience?
So I think some are universal, I think, with an overnight camp. I mean, certainly that sense of independence and making friends. But we hear a lot back from parents and campers about responsibility. We still have daily chores. They're not a huge part of our program, but they're very important to us. That the kids have a little thing to do every day, and it rotates, and it's fair, so everybody gets to do different things. And probably our biggest award and the thing that the kids get so interested in is the golden sponge. And we like the fact that what you're rewarded for is something that everybody can participate in. Everybody can do their part to keep your cabin clean. And so that's a really big deal for us. So that sense of responsibility and ownership of something, we really play heavy on this is your camp. So when you walk past a piece of trash, that's important. You chose to leave it there. Let's pick it up. So those things, are intentional. One thing that it's funny, because I thought about this in preparation for this conversation, and I have a feeling that a lot of people, even within our inner circle, really don't know how intentional this part is. Our schedule is built with a lot of time to get to the next thing. And I don't mean from activity to activity, but we ring a bell for dinner, and dinner doesn't seem to happen right away. And I think some of our counselors, is it late? But those to us are the times when kids make connections. There's no schedule. They're just gathering. And we do that a lot. And I don't, like I said, I don't think it's widely known, even to our staff, that that's very intentional. Yes, we know it doesn't take you half an hour to walk up to the bus parking lot, but on that journey, you'll be talking, you'll be listening, you'll be singing songs. And at the end of it, those kids are going to just have met somebody new or have learned something new. And so that's actually a very intentional thing that's built in and has been built into our program for decades. That is not something that we really talk about very much, because we do have a philosophical belief that kids actually, and humans in general, have good friend making skills. What they need is coaching and practice.
Absolutely.
And so when we see that, when we give them that time, and it's all designed to be in contained areas. So when you gather for mealtime, and it's not quite mealtime, you're going to hang out right outside where there happens to be this beautiful square with lots of toys and games and counselors to facilitate. And surprise, surprise, 50 people are playing a big circle game. That's why we didn't go into dinner right away. It's not because the kitchen's not ready.
Right.
And so that's something that we've built over many years, and it's just so ingrained now that I don't think people think about it much, but it's very philosophically important. And then the other thing we hear a lot from parents is that their kids are more responsive to conversations and to discussion. And I frame it to parents. One of the things that I love about camp is that for the first time, those kids generally have stories that you had no part in. And that's very, that first time that a child can have a conversation at the dinner table revolve around their experiences, and parents weren't there, so they can't correct, right? We all do that as parents, like, well, actually, that's not true. It wasn't the pizza place, it was the burger place. You remember. But they have no frame of reference for the camp experience. So when that kid's saying, no, we went into the woods and we built a fire and I cooked my own dinner over the fire, and I did this and I did that. It's enthralling for parents to realize that, gosh, my kid had experiences that were successful and had impact on them that I had no part of. And we really enjoy that. We hear that from parents a lot. That was really a very pivotal moment for them when they realized that, this is my kids growing up and they've had these experiences. And so that's something we build in a lot. It's just the idea of, and facilitating it. And kind of one of the funny little ways that we facilitate it is because we know that kids will forget to tell their parents what they did. Right? So we have collectible wooden nickels.
Okay.
And each year we produce new ones. And like one year it might be I hiked a big tree. Okay. Another year we have usually 6 or 7 a year. Another one it might be I did climbing or I did swimming. Okay. Whatever it might be. And the kid goes home with those, and the idea is that when they just take them out of their pocket and drop them on the ground, parents go, what did you get that for? And so they're conversation starters. Nice. So the kids like them because they like to collect things. Right. But we tell the parents those are conversation starters. That's how you can ask the question when you don't know what to ask. Sure. How was camp? That was fine. Yeah. No. Well, but what did you get this for? It says you hiked somewhere. What is that about? Yeah. And those have been great. And so fun. Kids enjoy it. We enjoy producing them and thinking what they could be and displaying them. And then the parents, they love them as conversation starters. Sure. Like, I can see what that's about.
Probably motivates kids to try new things too. Right. If they can get it, like maybe something a little more challenging or a little out of their comfort zone. If they, I want one of those.
Well, it's
interesting. I want that nickel.
Right.
I want that wooden nickel.
That's what we hope. And it hasn't developed that as much as we thought. But this year we're producing, hopefully, collectible albums.
Oh, neat.
Because
like the ones you get for those quarters, but you're going to have them for that's
because
so
the
fun.
problem is the kids lose them or they
Yes.
forget about them. And so what we want them to do is exactly that. We want it to become a little bit more, so it's fulfilled a lot of the needs that we wanted out of it.
Yes.
But the one piece it hasn't is that, idea of a kid going, gosh, I wonder what they are this year. And I wonder if I'll sign up for the right activities and what can I try new to get a new wooden nickel. So we're hoping that the collectible sleeve, it's crazy the things that we end up thinking about.
But these are all, but this is, again, it just shows the intention behind what you do at Kennolyn, that it's not just come and do these activities, you're thinking through. And when you were talking about those kind of waiting times or going between, I kept thinking about the challenge success. They talk about PDF, playtime, downtime, family time. A lot of kids don't have that kind of margin in their regular life. So to build that into your program is brilliant, because they need that. They need that time where it's kind of unstructured, maybe even like, oh, what are we doing right now? And they figure out how to use their time and use it to chat. And I love that. That sounds like a great way. And instead of feeling in a constant rush, like, oh my gosh, I've got to get to my next thing, you're making it so that we're not in a rush. Dinner's going to be here soon. And meantime, look at all this, we can hang out. And that's really, really
And it's
great.
interesting to see how the counselors manage it too.
Yeah.
At first, they're a little bit like, well, I'm in line. And then they realize that, just go and play a game, we have giant chess set. We have all these things that they can just do with their kids. But mostly it's just they end up sitting around and just playing games. And then, now it's time for dinner. And now it's time for breakfast, whatever. So those are really fun moments.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so Andrew, where can people find out all about Kennolyn if they're interested in talking to you? Are you the person they talk to, or can they just call and talk to someone?
They can definitely, they're always welcome to talk to me. We have a great, very experienced group in the office. We're very lucky. I mentioned at the beginning, Aunt Marion and Uncle Max, our founders, who have sadly passed, but their family is still very much involved in Kennolyn. And so their granddaughter, Pam, is our general manager and our kind of visionary. And then her sister, Lindsay, is our parent. Official title is, I think, Camper Satisfaction or something.
Okay.
But basically, helping families have happy campers.
Right.
That's her job. That's what she does. She answers the phone and calls people. So there's Lindsay and Pam. There's I'm there most of the time. My daughter is also, she's our assistant director. We have a great, Dan is our Huntington Lake director, and he's back in the fold. He's Lindsay's husband and was with Kennolyn for many years and then went off to a different career, and we brought him back. So it's very much a family with lots of experience. And most of those people were campers. We were all staff members in the early days of our careers there. So, but anyway, KennolynCamps.com is the simplest place to start.
Okay, I'll put a link on here too, so people can find you that way. Yep.
But go through there. There's tons of resources on there. But we love talking about camp. And actually, one of the things that I regret about the way the world's gone is I used to spend, and I'm sure you did, so much time on the phone.
Yeah.
Now I'm waiting for the phone to ring sometimes. And we have a system where it rings at one phone 4 times. And if Lindsay's not there or one of the office staff is not there, it rings to everybody else. And I kid you not, it's picked up in a nanosecond. I can't beat my daughter.
Everyone's like, please, I want to talk to somebody.
Is this about camp? And so it's really fun. We love those conversations. And I think there's some parents that don't need that, but for those parents that do, we love to engage, and it can be multiple times. Yeah. You call us as many times as you like until your kids, home safely at the end of camp. But we love those conversations.
Now, if people live in the Bay Area, I know some of your campers are from not that far away, can they come and tour or meet you in person?
Absolutely.
Do you have some set times, or is it sort of they make an appointment?
We do have set times. We have what we call Tutor Days. And this will resonate with some people with older kids. I started Tutor Days and changed them when I did college tours with my daughter, because I realized how intentional they were. Our Tutor Days used to be, well, the gate's open, just kind of find us, and we might be walking around giving somebody a tour. And I realized how uncomfortable that was. Yeah. And then I started to go to colleges, and they would have like a name badge, and they'd be like, here we are.
Go to the red sign, this,
And so it made me feel more comfortable. I knew exactly where to go. Yes. So we have these great tour days where we start in a central location so everybody can gather. We watch a video, then we go for a walk and we talk. So we have tour days. We have a big open house every spring, last weekend in April. And then we also go out into the community, and we have what we call
Right.
camp gatherings. Everybody has a version of them, I think, but we are hosted by returning families that just want to share the Kennolyn story with their friends. And so we'll just come very low key, and people just can come by, and they're all on the website, or you can call. But we really recommend visiting camp ahead of time, and bring your campers. There are questions that they have that they will never ask you.
Right.
But they want to know where they're going to go to the bathroom. They want to know I know what a cabin means, but is it, we have a cabin in Tahoe. Is it like that? Or I stayed in a cabin once in my backyard. Is that what it is?
Right.
They want to see what that means. Yeah. And when you say, well, you're sleeping on a bunk bed. I mean, I love Tutor Days because I watch the kids. So we go into a cabin. The parents are all standing at the door looking. The kids are climbing. How do I climb this bunk bed?
Yes.
If I'm on the top bunk,
right.
do I know how to get up?
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, so when I come on opening day, I'm not going to be uncomfortable.
Right.
Because I know how to climb that
Right.
bunk. I know how the mattresses work. So I really do. We love showing people around and seeing the kids and just their comfort level.
Oh, yeah.
It's tremendous how much difference there is between the shy kid that shows up and is super nervous, and then at the end of it, they're like, can I come for 4 weeks?
Right.
It's like they know the place. They feel like they're ready to go.
That's a great opportunity because not all camps can do that.
Right.
So that's really great. And also, of course, people who don't live near enough to tour don't need to.
No.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So they can also just call you and talk to you about it too. But what a great opportunity for people who are close enough to come see it in person. So.
You're exactly right. I mean, we have, the website, it's got all the bells and whistles. People can watch videos. You can get a sense of it. But if you have the opportunity, whether it be Kennolyn or whatever camp you're interested in, try and go see it if you can. And you're right. We don't have that opportunity at Huntington Lake because it's, it's in an area where it's inaccessible for large parts of the year. But that's why we love the Santa Cruz location, especially. Super convenient from everywhere in the Bay Area and really easy to come down. And we also, of course, because we live on site, and so we are also giving tours, many weekends. People can't come one of the tour days, but they'll be in town for an event. We'll show people around all the time. There's never a time when we close the gates, really. Maybe physically, but not metaphorically.
Yeah, that's great. Well, this has been terrific, Andrew. I hope many people learn about Kennolyn and your wonderful program, and we'll share this widely and hopefully get some new families to discover you guys.
I look forward to it.
Okay, take care.
Thanks.